This training video is the second in a three-part series designed to illustrate the most important facets of paver installation. In the first segment, we covered planning and base preparation. This segment will focus on screeding the bedding course and laying the pavers. We begin by double-checking to make sure that the base is sloped correctly and that there are no dips or bumps greater than ½ an inch. The base is now ready for screeding the bedding sand. The purpose of bedding sand is to seat the pavers and to allow a buffer for final compaction. This final compaction will make the surface very smooth. Screeding is accomplished with a couple of very basic tools. Two 3/4 inch diameter metal pipes, which are used as the screed guide, and a straight 2x4, which is used as the screed board. The pipes are laid directly on the gravel base at an elevation that would put the paver approximately 3/8 of an inch high than the required final height of the pavers. This will allow for compaction of the pavers. A saturated bedding course that does not drain will cause serious problems. Therefore, the bedding course usually consists of clean, coarse, concrete sand. Other materials are sometimes used if they have the same drainage properties as sand. A wheelbarrow is used to transport bedding sand to the area and can be quickly filled by a loader. Sand is then placed between the screed guides and raked out to conform to the general grade. The straightness of the screed board is checked by looking down the edge to see if there are any irregularities. The board is then used to screed sand across the rails. You can immediately see how smooth this surface becomes. Once one area has been screeded, the pipes are slid further down to complete the next section. As the rails are moved along, a small groove is left in the sand which needs to be filled. We simply take a shovelful of sand and spread it into the groove. A small hand trowel is then used to smooth the sand to the screeded surface. In areas where extra sand has been added, the sand is hand tamped in those spots and then re-screeded. Avoid walking on the screeded surface. The next step is laying the pavers. This may seem like a large part of the work, but actually it moves along quite quickly, especially if it is well planned out. In this project, the contractor is installing Ombriano and Copthorn. Because Ombriano is the larger component and the larger portion of the job, it is laid first. Another good reason to start with Ombriano is that it is the thicker of the two stones. Once it is laid, it will be easier to lay the Copthorn, which is 3/8 of an inch thinner. Referring back to the plan often ensures that the project stays on course with the pattern and design. Ombriano has a zero bevel edge. These sharp edges give projects a contemporary and sophisticated look. Care must be taken not to bump these paver edges against one another, as this can cause chipping. Staging pavers for the person laying the stones is very important. Putting the Ombriano on edge makes sorting and grabbing much easier and prevents the face of the stone from getting scuffed. The sides of each stone are slid together before it is placed on the bedding sand. Trying to slide a paver closer after it's on the sand is difficult and will result in uneven gaps. The advantage with a larger stone like Ombriano is that it can easily be cut in place. With the proper diamond blade, table saws, such as the one illustrated here, can be used to cut pavers, wet or dry. When used dry, a suction unit can be added that will draw in most of the dust. If used wet, a white slurry may be left on the stone, which is difficult to clean off unless it is washed off immediately after cutting. Whether cutting wet or dry, NIOSH-approved protective gear must be worn at all times. As the stones are being laid, attention is paid to the string lines so that the pavers remain straight. Always walk on the pavers that have just been laid, not the screeded surface. As we approach pipe grooves that could not be accessed for filling earlier, we can now fill and trowel them smooth. Minor adjustments in alignment are made with a paver alignment tool. Screwdrivers can also be used, but the paver alignment tool is preferred because its blade minimizes the risk of pinching the edges of the stone. Once the ombriano is completely laid in place, it may be necessary to cut around certain objects in order to facilitate the border stone, also known as a soldier course, which in this case is copthorn. A small accent of Unilock's legendary Brussels block was also added in the center pattern to give the appearance of a carpet design. The easiest way to cut in a soldier course is to mark the distance on the stone with a pencil. Then, using a chalk line, snap the whole line. The installation of copthorn accents requires a slight adjustment to the bedding course thickness. This is done by adding a small amount of sand to the area and then screeding it with a pre-cut screed board. Because this area is like a channel, the contractor has made a small board that is notched on both ends. Once the adjustment in the bedding course has been made, the copthorn pavers can be installed. Wherever pavers abut grass or gardens, a plastic or aluminum edge restraint is used to prevent lateral movement of the pavers into the garden. These edge restraints are spiked into place using 10 or 12-inch spikes. Once all of the pavers have been cut and the edge is secured, topsoil can be added to the gardens and then planted. This training video covered the basics of screeding and laying pavers. Please refer to part 3 in this series, which covers the next steps in the project: compacting and finishing.